Hey everybody, KC0VII Tom here, and Walter's having a lonely attack. This is like the 7th time I've tried to do this opening. Are you getting petted enough? It's a gorgeous morning here in St. Ansgar. It's nice and sunny outside. The days are getting warmer. The grass is really greening up. So you know what that means, Walter? It's camping time. What we want to talk about today is how we go camping. Everybody has their different ways they like to go camping. Some like to go to an RV park, pull up on a cement slab, connect all your hookups, water, sewer, and power, enjoy it with your friends for a few days, and you go home. Other people like to do boondocking. They go out in the great wilderness, either BLM land or some open area. Off-grid camping is a lot of fun. You should try it once. It's, especially if you got some friends, go along. And at night, it's gorgeous out there, the full stars up above you. To do this correctly, and one thing we will talk about later in a couple of videos, is we'll talk about campground etiquette again. We'll take a look at that. Had a lot of good comments on the one we did a few years ago. Made some notes on that, and other people will tell me what things I left out, and I learned a few things. It was quite interesting. Everybody enjoys camping, and one thing that everybody likes to do, but nobody will admit to it, is on your little walks around the campground, is take a look at your neighbors, what type of rigs they have, what type of accessories they have. And one thing you don't want to do is somebody setting up or tearing down is go there and ask them a question, because now you're going to break up their train of thought at how they're setting up or tearing down, and that could be a problem. You might interrupt them right when they're in the middle of connecting up the fifth wheel or connect up the trailer on a tow vehicle, and they forget to have safety chains or electrical cords. So if somebody is setting up or tearing down, just give them a couple minutes to get everything done, then ask for questions. I had somebody do that, ask me a question about the satellite dish, and I kind of lost my place because, the gold gray matter up here is not as sharp as it ever was, and I don't really think it was ever really sharp. And what had happened, the handrail on the side of the door, I always like to close that over the door so the door can't open up going down the road. Pulling out of the campground, I happened to catch that in the side mirror, and I quick stop, got out there and close that. And Smokey, okay, the other cap needs a little attention. So, one thing that helps you keep your mind on track is come up with some check sheets. One thing I have are 4 check sheets. 1 to load the RV, 1 to set up the campsite, 1 to tear down the campsite, and 1 to unload the RV. See you guys. What I do is print them out on the computer paper and put them in these little page protectors. And also the other thing I have is I got like 2 of these little 3-ring binders. I've gone through, the first one is all the equipment that came with the RV, the refrigerator, the power unit, the stove, the water heater, anything like that came with your rig. Write down the manufacturer, model number, serial number, and do a quick web search and find the owner's manual, download that as a PDF, save that on your computer for later reference, and I print them out in these little put them in these little plastic protectors, put them in there. I don't read them religiously. What I need is if I'm having trouble, say the water heater isn't working right, I can pull my RV book out and look in the water heater. There's usually some troubleshooting tips and figure out what the problem is and have hot water. The other 3-ring binder I have is anything I put into the camper, the stereo, the Wi-Fi repeater, the weather stations, the TiVo, the satellite dish receiver, and stuff like that. Something that I added, and again, it's not for enjoyable readings in case I got to troubleshoot something on the fly. So you have that little library set up there, and I always have it stuck in a cubby, so in case I need to look it up, I can. And I always put my checklist in the back of one of the books, so whatever I'm going to do, I can have that, either take them out, lay them on the seat, or lay them on the dinette, or I just open up the 3-ring binder of that page. And your check sheets are going to be what you need to keep you on task. If you want to go in intimate detail, very first step before we go camping, a couple days beforehand, I go out there and start up the refrigerator and fill the water tank. Why? These absorption style refrigerators take a couple days to get down to that set point. And sometimes they don't always want to fire off when you turn them on, so I turn it on, fill the water tank, treat the black tank, then I'll check the refrigerator, make sure it's starting to cool down, because I hate to go out there the day before you go camping and it's not at set point. So this is a nice little way to make sure it is going to operate. And again, it's just a little brief steps. I don't get into much detail. A few days before you go camping, I'll fill the water tank and get the refrigerator going. Before we go back to the house, I'll check the refrigerator to make sure those coils, those fins in the back of the refrigerator are starting to get cool to the touch. One thing that's handy, look around for these little infrared thermometers and they're kind of handy. You just shoot in there. If the temperature on those coils are getting down there, you know you're doing right. Cat here. Then usually the day before we go camping, I'll pack my clothes. I'll take a look at the weather for the weekend or the time I'm out camping. Decide what I'm going to have. I'm going to have shorts, t-shirt, sweatshirt, long jeans. Do I need, you know, a couple pairs of boots, some socks, extra socks? That's one thing I always make sure. I always carry at least, you know, if we're going to be gone for 3 days, I'll pack 6 pairs of socks. The TLJ always wondered about that. And I says, I always get my feet wet, and I hate having wet socks. And usually a couple pairs of shoes, so one pair of shoes can be drying out when I'm in the other pair. Take a look at your meal plan. What are you going to have? For breakfast, I like to have coffee and toast or a Pop-Tart. So I'll make sure for every morning we're out there, I got enough coffee on hand, and also, you know, something like that to snack on for breakfast. Lunch times, I see how many days are going to be out for lunch. Brats, burgers on the grill, along with beans, can of beans, warm up in the microwave or on the grill. Make a nice, enjoyable lunch. Supper, I always enjoy having a steak on the grill when we're out camping. Throw a couple of potatoes in the microwave to warm them up. Maybe get some canned vegetables or some type of vegetables to have on a side plate. Again, it doesn't have to be that big or elaborate, but just something that you're gonna, you're gonna cook up so you have an idea. Also, don't forget snacks. There's nothing more fun than sitting down at the picnic table, talking to good friends, having an adult beverage or a beverage, and have a bag of chips or something to nibble on. Cookies, bars, you know, something like that. That's a good idea for that. If you have little rugrats, little children running around with you, make sure you have some pop for them, water, and you know, a little granola bar, something they can snack on. So, now once we get everything loaded up for us, don't forget about your animals, your pets. If you're bringing along Mrs. Crawley, like I do, I always make sure that the water dish and the food dish are in there. Usually I make sure the food dish is full, because she'll make that last for a couple days. She's usually nibbling off me anyway. Anything I have, she's got to have. The water dish, I'll fill about half full when we're traveling. That way she can get a drink on the travel. Then we do get to a site, I'll top it off, so that's with fresh water. So that's nice and clean and cool water for her. This is all set up, like I said, the night before we leave. Come the morning that we're going to leave, I'll drop power to the camper. We'll talk about that later on. Go walk around, make sure all the storage compartments and the doors to the campers are locked, except for the 2 doors up front. This is a Class C motorhome, so you got the van style front end. Do a quick check on weather reports, forecast for your weekend, your stay out, and also where you're going. Check road conditions. There's any road construction. I got bitten in the butt a couple of times heading to a place to go camping and found out the road I was planning on taking was under construction or closed due to repairs, bridge out. Do a last walk around the rig to make sure that everything is secured. You didn't forget anything. All doors are nice and locked. Nothing's hanging on the side. A lot of times in a hurry, I'll set something like a cooler beside the back of the camper because I'm working on something else and I'll forget about it. So I'd like to do a quick walk around. Check your tires, make sure they look like they're properly inflated. The hubcaps are on nice and tight. Peek underneath of the rig, make sure there's nothing there. Dog, cat, neighbor cat. We got a couple stray cats here in the neighborhood. They're always trying to get in the camper, it seems like, when we start packing up. Then the last important item, get to crewing. I mean, it's kind of like herding cats around here. Get her in and start heading to the campground. Also, it's pet shedding time here in the North Iowa. Cat hair all over from Walter. Once we get to the campground or site that we're going to do, get checked in. Some campgrounds, they want to be escort you to your site. In reality, what they're doing is making sure you're going to be at the site you're scheduled to. You're not going to be on the way there and realize, oh, that one looks better. Let's stop here. Get there. What I like to do is I'll kind of pull off to the side of the road, get out of the rig, and walk the campsite. Look for stuff. Where's the power? Where's the fire ring? Where's the picnic table? Some campgrounds will have a cement slab. Find out from the camp host, do I park on the slab or I park next to the slab with the door over the slab? That way, you know, that's a nice little patio area. Once you get that, you get back in. If you need a ground guide, go through your hand signals with your ground guide. This is left, this is right, this is keep coming, this is stop, this is really stop. You know, make sure you have your hand signals all worked out. Once you get the rig where you want it to, go through your leveling process. If you got auto levelers, if you got blocks of wood like I do, get the rig nice and level, close to level, so it's easier sleeping. The main thing is for that refrigerator will come, you know, will start operating. Connect your water, power, sewer if you have full hookups, depending on what you have at your site. Walk around, make sure. I always like to unlock all my storage doors so I get access to that stuff as I'm setting up. I have a nice little windshield cover I put on the outside of the rig to, it's a canvas style material that blocks the sun from shining in the front and prying eyes. Your side windows, if you like to have camping with your shades open and closed, go through and get that set up. Then I'll turn on my LP tank and turn on the refrigerator. Depending on if I'm burning LP or electricity, make sure you select the proper fuel for your refrigerator there. We'll talk about driving with the LP tank on or off later on in the video. Depending on the weather conditions, I might open up the windows and the roof vents, or I'll fire up the air conditioner. I want to make sure that camper is nice and comfortable because Mrs. Crowley's going to be in there most of the time if I'm out enjoying the great outdoors. Then I get the awning out, set out the rug. If your ground cover, if it's not going to get too hot, throw your ground cover out. If it's going to get in the 90s, do not use your ground cover because that will kill the grass. A lot of people don't think about that, and in the middle of the summertime you go to some of these campgrounds and you'll see where people have done that. There's burnt or dead grass patches throughout the campground. Get your tables and chairs, your cooler out. Then I go through and set up the amateur radio antennas so we can make contacts on the HF band. I'll throw up the satellite dish. That is an automatic setup. You just throw it up, make sure you got a clear shot to the south. Don't watch a lot of stuff on TV, but it's nice to have in the morning and at night before you go to bed. Just catch up in the local news, national news, and the big thing is the weather. If we got a storm looks like it's rolling in, I'll fire up, check the local channels, check Weather Nation or Weather channel, and see if there's any reports locally on this weather. I'll set up the Wi-Fi if Wi-Fi is available in the campground. This is just a repeater that pulls the signal from outside to inside the rig. That way you can receive text messages from the kids or send text messages. Having a great time? Glad you don't know where we're at? Ha ha ha! Then the last thing I do before I start camping is walk your perimeter. Make sure all your stuff is inside your campground site. Listen for the radio. If you got your radio playing on, make sure you can hear it very loud on your perimeter, because that way your neighbor may be able to hear it too. We were at a campground and this guy really got into old country music. We're talking yodeling cowboys, and he played it extremely loud. He was like 7 or 8 campsites away from me and it was still loud. And later on that afternoon, the camp host came in there and had a little talk with the guy, and it didn't go good. The guy started throwing stuff around and he left. Then the camp host came around to each one of us that were camping and kind of apologized to us. And the one gal says, we didn't get a complaint all day about it. As we came in to check the registration box, that we could hear it down there. We asked him nicely, he's got to turn it down, and he threw a fit and left. So your neighbors are very tolerable, but don't push it. You can only push them so far. Once the perimeter is walked, go have fun. You're camping. Okay, you're all done camping. It's getting late in the last day you're out there. Hope you're not too tired because you still got a lot of work to do to get everything picked up. I kind of worked this in reverse order. We'll shut down the Wi-Fi repeater. We'll take down the satellite dish. Start pulling down all the HF antennas for the amateur radio equipment. I'll put away the awning. Make sure you wipe that before you're down with the broom or knock any leaves or sticks on. You don't want to have that wrapped up in your awning. Again, with tables and chairs, usually I'll take a damp washcloth with me out there and just wipe them down in case there's any tree sap or dust or dirt on them. Flip the rug out and shake that and roll that up, put it in storage. Then I'll go through and close all the roof vents if they're open, shut the windows, turn off the AC if it was running. Then I'll make sure the refrigerator is shut off. I'll turn off my LP tank. If you're on full hookups, now is a good time to dump your tanks and flush your tanks out. If you have that full hookup set there, then if you have power, I'll disconnect the power at the same time. I'll pull off the cover on the windshield, make sure all the windows are covers are open, so I can, while we're driving, I can look around all and see outside the RV. I'll collect my leveling blocks, because by then I'll be able to move her a little bit and get the blocks off. Make sure the stairs are up all the way and secured. I'll go around and start locking all the storage doors and the main door going in. Again, walk the site. Look for anything you left behind. It's amazing when I pull into a site and do my initial walkthrough of the stuff I find. One time we were up at Minnesota at a nice little RV resort, and laying right next to the gravel pad it was, at first I couldn't figure out what type of plumbing fixture this was, but somebody spent the time and they had a T that you just put on the spigot, and one side of the T was hooked up to a water regulator to another T, and you know, it was a very high-end water regulator. And the idea, after I'm sitting there looking at it, the idea is you could put this on that spigot. You had one, you know, one side went to the camper, the other side is if you wanted to have a another hose hooked up for the neighbor, or if you needed to wash the dog or something like that. And on the after the water regulator, there's a T, and one side of the T you could tell is supposed to go to your camper, your water supply there. And the other side of that T had some real strange fitting. I couldn't figure it out until I hooked it up. It was a drinking fountain. So I suppose the guy had kids. They could run over there and push the button, and a little faucet of water. They would, you know, put a drinking fountain out. On the way out, I turned that into the camp host, and they were quite surprised and thank you for turning it in. And they were made a comment that morning, Sunday morning, the guy that was there previously had called them and says, if anybody turns that in, let me know, and you know, we either mail it to me or I'll swing by and get it. So it's probably a little spendy piece of item. So you always want to make sure you walk your site looking for anything you left behind. On the way out of the campgrounds, hit that dump station, flush your tanks out if the line's not too long. Also, take a look for a dumpster for a trash site. A lot of sites will, campgrounds will have a dumpster next to the dump station so you can get rid of your trash. Once that all is done, hit the road. You had a nice, enjoyable camping excursion out there. You're pulling into your driveway. You got the rig parked out where she's going to be. One thing I always like to do is get it just a little bit unlevel, so if it rains, all the water on the roof's not going to puddle up. It's going to drain off. You have to be aggressively unlevel like I do in the wintertime. I'll actually have the front end or the back end of the rig really up high so the water drains off the roof of the camper fast in the wintertime. I don't want it to refreeze and cause problems up there. But in the summertime, it's just a little bit unlevel so the water won't pool up on there. Remove any dirty clothes. Any trash that's left behind, make sure you pull that out right away so it doesn't stink up the camper. Also, any clean clothes that I didn't wear, I'll pull those out and put them back in the house. Any food in the refrigerator, make sure you pull that out and shut out the refrigerator. Also, any food left in your cabinet, make sure you pull it out. We don't want to leave any food behind, not to spoil, it's just that your little four-legged furry critters are going to find them. And when you're not out camping, they're going to be camping in your rig and have a nice little food supply. Turn off the refrigerator. I always like to wipe mine down at the time, just a wet washcloth, wipe it down. Anything that's spilled in there is a lot easier to clean up while it's still fresh instead of a couple weeks later when it's had a chance to harden up. I'll connect power to the rig. That way the batteries are kept charged up in case I have to go out there for whatever reason to do any maintenance or work on something. I got power out there. Also, it's a nice little home away from home when the kids come to visit. I'll do a quick cleaning inside, run the vacuum cleaner on the carpet and wipe down the cabinets just in case we spilled anything. It's a lot easier, like I said, it's a lot easier to do it then when it's fresh than after it's set up for a while. I'll go around to all the windows, make sure they are shut, and close the windows covering, the shades or the blinds. Don't want any prying eyes in there. I'll open up the vent, the roof vent in the bathroom, so air can get out of the camper. And when it's in the summertime, we don't want to get too hot in there. A lot of times in the summer, I'll open up all three of the vents on the roof for good ventilation. It's amazing how hot it can get inside the camper. So any water in my fresh water tank, I pull the drain plug and let it drain out. And at the same time, I'll actually open up the kitchen faucet to get air into the system to push the water out. Your low water points, make sure you have them open. Also, your water heater, if you got a drain on your water heater, open it up. You want to get rid of all your fresh water out of the system. If it sits in there, it's going to go stale, then it's going to go bad, then you have a problem. And then you got to get out that nasty bee bottle, and you don't want to do that. Couple of last things I do, I always check the level of my propane tank. Do I need to run to get more propane before the next camping trip? So it's just, you want to make sure that when you do go, you got propane and propane accessories. I go around, make sure all my storage doors are locked. And that's it. Now poo is all sitting there ready to go for the next camping trip. And it's just, at that point. Now, like I said, on your checklist, these are kind of be like a living document. As you camp through the years, you're going to change your camping style, camping equipment, even rigs. So again, these are going to be tailored to you, and you can have them in intimate detail as you want, or just a quick reminder like I have. And that way, when it comes time to get camping, you can get her loader going, you get to the campground, you get everything set up, enjoy the great outdoors, enjoy your friends, have a good time. Then when it comes time to leave, you got a quick, easy way to how to get everything put back into the rig. When you get home, a quick, easy way to unload everything and get her all ready. One thing I did not add on this, due to the fact that it's variable with the weather, is washing the outside. You should always try to wash, if it's a fiberglass rig, use some of that special wash and conditioner they have, and that will actually refresh the surface of that fiberglass. Airstreams, there is a type of ceramic coating they can put on them now, I see. It gets rid of the tarnish and keeps them nice and shiny. And a lot of the other rigs, a good automotive car wash soap does it good. I have a small power washer I use, and it can siphon the soap up. And I got one of those rotating brushes to get off the stubborn spot. And I also have just a brush on a long broom handle like that. I'll soap it down on one side, go after with that brush, then go back with the rotating on the rinse cycle and kind of do a little power rinse on that. You do that once a month and it keeps the outside of the camper look good. I've had a lot of people will ask me, what year is that? Because it's so nice and shiny. Well, not right now because it's been sitting outside all winter. But I've never had a problem. You know, Pooh is a 91 Jayco camper, and a lot of these campgrounds will have a 10-year clause that if your camper is more than 10 years old, they don't want them in your campground. You pull up on something that looks nice, presentable on the outside. I've never had a problem being turned away from a campground. So, on that, hope to see you out camping. 7-3 everybody, take care. Be sure to tell your friends, neighbors, other hams. Subscribe, hit that bell to get notification when new videos come out. Add comments below. 7-3 everybody.